Hi everybody, it's Dr. Kadisha, your board certified emergency medicine physician and best-selling author of the book Help Us Help You in the Emergency Room. It's what an ER doctor would tell you if she only had the time. And while the ebook has been available on Amazon since March 1st, now the hard copy is available for order. So if you go to www.helpushelpyoubook.com, you will get an autographed copy from me because I've ordered a number of books. They're going to come to me, so I have to sign them personally, and then I will ship them out to you. But that's not the reason why I'm here today. I'm here to go over some tips for flood safety given all of the thunderstorms and the flooding that we've had this week, and the fact that the AccuWeather forecast is predicting that even though it's beautiful and sunny right now here in Houston, it's predicting that we're going to get more severe thunderstorms and flooding that's going to affect the south central United States even more, and it's even going to extend up to the northeast area where I'm from. So I really wanted to go over some tips to help keep all of us safe in case we come in contact with any flood water, and to help keep other people safe should we or they encounter some flood water. So I got a request from someone, from Dr. Carol Penn, on caring for ourselves and our loved ones during a flood. Now, other folks will talk about, protecting your property, protecting your car, and things like that. I want to talk about us protecting ourselves and each other. So, floodwaters, they pose a risk for a number of things: infectious disease, injuries, chemical hazards, and electrical hazards, and who knows what else, and all the mental anguish that goes with that. So we'll just take it one by one. We'll start with infectious disease. So eating or drinking anything contaminated with flood water exposes us to all those risks. Bacteria like methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, which used to be a hospital issue, but now it's a community issue. Tetanus. When's the last time you had your tetanus shot? If you haven't had it within the last 10 years, you need to have had one. And if you suffer a wound that's bad enough, we like to have you have had one within the last 5 years. And what does tetanus put you at? What happens with tetanus? Because I have a lot of patients who want to avoid getting the booster, and they're like, well, what could happen? What will tetanus bring on? It could cause lockjaw. That tetany. Tetany is like, a spasm of the muscle. It can cause painful muscle spasms, not just in the jaw area. It can cause laryngospasm, spasm in the muscles of the throat. So that's laryngospasm, seizures, death. Another bacteria that we have to worry about with flood water is E. coli. And everyone knows about that, with food, raw hamburger, things like that. We have to worry about viruses from flood waters, like hepatitis, norovirus, and rotavirus. And rotavirus can really be severe in children. It's less severe in adults, more severe in children. And parasites like Cryptosporidium. So how do we avoid? Hey, Dr. Sylvia, thanks for joining me in this too. I got your book, the pharmacy hacks that folks should know about. I can't wait to read it. Now that I'm off this weekend, I'm going to check it out. So, all right, so bacteria. We talked about bacteria. We talked about viruses, hepatitis, norovirus, rotavirus, and parasites like Cryptosporidium. How do we protect ourselves and our loved ones from that? We have to wash our hands well, at least 15 to 20 seconds with soap and warm, clean water. And I have to stop and say, just as a physician, as a germaphobe, I can't stand it when I'm in a public bathroom and a woman comes out of the stall and stops because she knew she was going to run out of there without washing those hands. And she stops. And then she's like, I don't know you. She just figures, and then she just runs out. so nasty. You're nasty. You're nasty. All of you are nasty, okay? Stop it. So, and wash your hands for 15 to 20 seconds. Count, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi while you're washing all surfaces of your hands with warm, clean water. Wash your children's hands. Sometimes your children, just washing you wash your hands isn't enough. Sometimes you have to wash their hands for them, with them, so they can really get a feel of the proper way to wash their hands. And be vigilant of your children playing with toys that are contaminated by flood waters. And if you have any concerns about that, sanitize them with bleach. And I'm not saying straight bleach, because some of these cheap toys, the bleach will just cause the toy to disintegrate, but it's with a bleach solution. So first of all, you wash the toys to get off the gross dirt and debris, with soap and warm water, rinse it, and then you sanitize it with a bleach solution. So for toys, that is 1 cup of bleach to 5 gallons of water. You, wipe the toys down with it, and you allow it to air dry. Cooking surfaces, you need a mixture of 1 teaspoon of bleach to 1 gallon of water. Again, after washing conventionally with soap and water, use that solution, 1 teaspoon to 1 gallon of water on cooking surfaces, and allow it to air dry. Okay, so that's number 1, infectious disease with flood waters. Number 2 is injuries. Okay, so the first thing, of course, is drowning. Regardless of one's ability to swim, even shallow water, when it's moving fast enough, it can be deadly. And for children, even just standing shallow water can be dangerous. So beware of that. If you're driving down the street and it's flooded, and especially if you can't see the bottom, don't drive into it. Cars can get stalled and be swept away, and I just couldn't imagine the horror of being stuck in my car as it's being swept down the street. I'll tell you one thing though, I had one, thank you Dr. Sylvia, so 1's infectious disease, 2's injury. So yeah, I think I drove through some floodwaters with my car, and I made it through, but that water was like, up at the base of the car doors, and after that the car stopped working properly, and the next thing I knew, I had $7,000 worth of damage to consider paying for. So don't drive into floodwaters if you can at all. Another thing is animal and insect bites. The floodwaters can bring all kinds of animals out that we typically have no contact with. Dr. Carol had mentioned to me that she had a dead raccoon floating in floodwaters in her home when they lived in Houston, when she and her husband lived in Houston for a while. Could you imagine finding a dead raccoon floating in your living room among floodwaters? Disgusting. And it brings out snakes and all kinds of bugs and who knows, and then in certain areas it might even bring out some alligators. And did you see the story of the young man who was celebrating his birthday, and he was hanging out on a bridge with some friends, and they saw a dog who was treading water in the river, and the young man jumped into the water and swam over to the dog and was holding on to his collar. And the dog looked back at him and was like, what are you doing? And bit that guy's hand, bit him chunk, went down on his hand, and even bit his face. And the rest of the footage, you see blood pouring down the young man's face, and he's still holding on to this dog, trying to save him in disgusting, river water. And so could imagine floodwater being bitten by something and having it immediately exposed to floodwaters. So avoid contact with floodwater. It can contain glass fragments, metal fragments, wood fragments, things that can cause injury and lead to infection. So in addition to those bites, you've got who knows what floating in floodwaters. It could be rusty metal, and again, concern about tetanus. Everyone, just in general, try to keep up with your tetanus shots, because you never know what you might be exposed to. So that's 2's injury. Number 3 is chemical hazards. I'm down here in Houston, the land of oil and gas. the land of the chemical plants, the oil plants. You know, we're finally, I think, moving past the ITC plant fire situation that had a large black cloud hanging over a section of Houston. You know, we've got a lot of chemical plants around, and the floodwaters can dislodge containers of solvents and other industrial chemicals from their storage spaces and maybe even cause spills. So that's another reason to avoid floodwater. You just don't know what could be in there, and you might not feel anything solid in it. You think you're just in water, but you don't know what's mixed with the water, especially with solvents. Solvents, you know, blend in with water very well. So try to avoid floodwaters whenever you can. That's chemical hazards. That's number three. And then number 4 is electrical hazards. You know, everyone has that fear of electrocution, you know, so when you see a power line down near floodwaters, stay away. Even if it looks like it's a dead, you know, it's a dead line, stay away, because that, you know, electric shock can spread quickly and it can be deadly. And even if it's not deadly, it can still do damage. So that's number 4. So floodwaters pose a risk for infectious disease, injuries, chemical hazards, and electrical hazards, in addition to, you know, destruction of property and things like that. The AccuWeather forecast says that a large system is supposed to be dumping, you know, large amounts of water over the south central United States and going up into the Northeast. So I gotten a request to discuss flood safety. Again, please hit like, please comment about situations that you might have had while in a flood. And, you know, and also, you know, feel free to throw in some topics that you would like me to discuss in the comments. And please share this video and follow me, Dr. Khadisha, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Dr. Khadisha MD. That's DrKadishaMD. And my website is www.drkhadishamd.com. Please, thank you for joining me. Please check out my book, Help Us Help You in the Emergency Room. It's what an ER doctor would tell you if she only had the time. And thank you so much. Enjoy your Friday. Stay safe, stay dry, and I will see you next time.